This is the 74th episode of the Effective Executive podcast and YouTube channel. And this week I want to talk about 6 things. There's many more, believe me, that make your organization efficient but not effective. And when I work with organizations, one of the first things that I do is go to the front line wherever customers interact with an organization, and I want to understand how their system works for customers or does not work for customers, and more often than not, and what I've been able to train myself to do is see what wrong thinking maybe went into the system and its design. And so there's 6 recurring themes that I keep seeing in organization over the years, and they haven't really changed that much. Some of them I've talked about before, some of them I've touched on, and some of them maybe I haven't talked about at all. But let's start. The first one is automation and technology. Now, I have worked with a number of technology companies. I am a former chief information officer, and I can tell you that technology has its place. The problem with technology is, and automation of things is, often we're automating things that are not well designed. We keep doing things over and over and faster, but it's just creating more and more errors or worse, things that upset a customer by virtue of what we're doing. And technology definitely has its place, but whenever you get a mixture or an assortment of tastes and needs and wants and requirements from customers, technology doesn't do very well in absorbing those things. And that's where you need humans. And oftentimes there is a very myopic view when you're working with a technology company is, well, because they're from a technology company, there's got to be a technological solution to solve that problem. And it also becomes very expensive to do that. But hey, when you're in a technology company, you do what the customer wants, right? Not always. Not if you can show them that technology probably isn't best put there, but we've got other problems in systems and technology company chasing revenue and profit, and they rarely will say no. They can do it for a price, and that price is often pretty expensive. So that's the first thing. Automation and technology, it can make you very efficient, but it's not going to make you very effective. The second one I've actually, in episode 13, I've talked about before, which is accountability. And you often hear there's two ways of looking at this. Accountability of an employee or a worker in an organization going to make you accountable, type of thing. But there's no responsibility. In other words, you dictated the training, you dictated the processes, you dictated all of these things. And so you can make them accountable to those things, but they're not responsible. And when you don't give responsibility to people who are actually doing the work, interacting with customers or whatever role they're playing, it's really difficult to make them accountable for something they really don't have control over. You can sit there and say you didn't follow the process, but actually that leads to my third thing, which is I see quite often is oversight and inspection of some sort. It could be some type of score for someone in a contact center. There could be, this gets into some of the ranking aspects of employees. This employee's better than another. They follow the process better than another, and we make them more accountable. But oversight and inspection of what if it's the wrong thing, overnight and inspection or oversight and inspection uh, doesn't really make you effective. It can make you efficient. It can get force people into compliance. Um, I've seen ridiculous things, especially at contact centers. Uh, I got my checklist of things that make sure that this person does. Someone who's never been on the phone, they're in the quality department or a manager or whatever, and they go through and they start the checklist of, um, one of them that I more off. I mean, not all the time. I'm probably saying maybe 10 or 20% of the companies that I've worked with over the years, they have one checkbox for were you smiling while you were on the phone? Seriously. Seriously. So I'm not sure how that makes you effective, but that was one of the things on the list, and they inspect it. Um, the second example would be know your customer in banking. You got to know your customer and all of this. And someone calls up and they verify the customer and go through this whole process. And the customer is calling about a location of a branch, or they're calling about a phone number that they need, or something that doesn't require you to know your customer. And this is where sometimes automation and accountability and all these things come in, and it leaves you scratching your head. And that's why it's so important for executives to spend time actually listening to how their system sounds, and then you'll come to realization what customers come to. The fourth thing I have is quotas. Oftentimes there's quotas, and my classic example, and this is back with Northwest Airlines. I know this is years ago or even decades now, before they were bought out. But Northwest Airlines, I was traveling internationally, and I was on the phone with an agent, and after, I'm going to say, we were going through some things that I needed to know about flying overseas and my passport and a number of things. We were going through, and about 5 minutes in, the agent said, "I got to go." I got to go where? Well, I've spent too much time on this call. Could you call back in? So they had a quota for how long they're supposed to call, and apparently this agent had come up against that particular line. But you get quotas in a lot of things. You've got number of jobs a technician has to do in a day, and this gets back to some of the things we talked about earlier about technology, where sometimes if you go in to fix an air conditioning unit, it might take a lot longer because of the problems associated with it. And when there's a standard time in there, then what do you do if you're being measured on these things, or even worse, being have incentives associated with how fast you can do something? Those are things that you can help skill up people in, but providing quotas doesn't really. It causes more problems often than not because somebody's taking some shortcuts in order to achieve their quota, and so the question becomes, what methods are they using? What processes are they using? And how we might be able to help them speed up, not just set a quota and say you have to hit that. It's very lazy, in my opinion. Quotas are the most used and the laziest thing that executives and managers can use. The fifth and sixth things kind of go together, and it's Lean and Six Sigma. Every company out there uses these two things. And, let's just take a step back for a minute. Lean has been in healthcare for well over a decade, probably 2 or 3 decades now. And I haven't seen any results from it that make me go, ooh, wow, Lean is really great. And I've got people that can anecdotally say, well, we improved this process. But it's the system, and the process is part of the system, and the system is broken. And so, in essence, I heard the term this morning, rearranging the, I've heard it over the years, but reminded me of it, rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. I'm doing it very efficiently. Look how I'm doing this efficiently, and look how much money I saved. But the system's broken, and you're not saving any money. You're just kidding yourself. And lean has elements of that. And there are people within lean that understand at a deeper level about systems and how things interact together and those types of things. But when people go for lean training, they're not getting any of that. This is all tool oriented stuff, and close to that is Six Sigma, and that's the sixth thing is Six Sigma. Makes sense. Six Sigma, I've been trained in it, Master Black Belt, all that stuff. It's very tool oriented, it's very measurement oriented, and people are measuring stuff right and left, but none of it really is helpful oftentimes unless you have a systemic view. You have synthetic thinking that goes along with it. It can't stand alone. None of these things can. And, I'm often asked, I've beaten up on lean and Six Sigma over the years, but, with regards to lean, it basically limits other possibilities. In other words, the same tools have been used in lean for years. And my question is always, so what new tools, what innovative things do you have now with regards to lean? Is there anything new that you've come up that help? No, it's the same tools. It's the same toolkit. And when you got everybody in your industry doing the same thing, lean and Six Sigma, there's no competitive advantage there. This isn't the end. Just because you've doing lean and Six Sigma in your organization is not the pinnacle. I would say far from it. It's a whole different mindset that's required in order to make your organization effective. And these things ultimately focus you on doing the wrong things right, or if I could take a page from Russell Aikoff. So, what do you need to do as an executive? You need to immerse yourself as an executive into the customer interactions, into how things are delivered in your organization, whether it's service or manufacturing, it doesn't really matter. And then from that, establish an aim from what you learn, and what's important to the customer. And there's this tug that shouldn't exist, and I'll say it again, is that your financials are a result of the performance in a service or manufacturing organization. It's a result of, not an end of itself. And too many executives are so focused on what the financials are that they forget to create value for customers. And it is a mismatch of different things that they throw into this bucket, and out comes a bunch of crap, basically. So that's what I wanted to talk about this week, are these 6 things that make your organization efficient. These things will make you more efficient. You'll be able to do them faster. You'll be able to hold people accountable, and you'll be able to, inspect people, and lots of oversight, micromanagement, and those types of things, and quotas and lean and Six Sigma that'll make you effective. That requires a whole different line of thinking. So that's it for this week. Catch you next week.